Before we begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever stood at the grave of the one person you loved the most, only to realize you never truly knew them at all? The kind of betrayal that doesn't whisper, it shatters. This isn't just a story. It's what happened to me. And everything changed on the day of my husband's funeral. If you've ever been betrayed in silence, stay with me. Subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Scene fades into a gray, rainy church. The sky that day wasn't just cloudy, it felt deliberate, like the heavens knew something I didn't. A weight pressing down, as if the air itself was mourning. I arrived at the church too early, wearing the title of widow like a coat I didn't choose. For 27 years, I was William's wife. We didn't live lavishly. No yachts, no gala invitations. Just 2 cups of coffee in the morning, shared glances over dinner, and silence that I mistook for peace. He traveled for work, half the year, every year. He said it was logistics. Corporate contracts. He didn't like phones. Said he was old-fashioned. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? But the moment I stepped into that church, something felt wrong. Unfamiliar faces filled the pews. Their eyes didn't meet me with sympathy, they looked at me like I didn't belong. And then, I saw her. A woman my age, dressed in black. Standing too close to the casket. Too close to William. Beside her stood a man and a woman, grown children. Children that weren't mine. Their stares burned through me. And then, after the final prayer, it happened. A voice, sharp, furious, echoing across the sacred walls. Unbelievable. She has the nerve to show her face here. Time slowed. He pointed at me, his eyes wild with rage. You ruined our family. You were nothing but a mistress. Mistress. Gasps. Whispers. Laughter, even. Not the kind that mocks. The kind that confirms. And that woman beside him? She didn't look confused. She looked betrayed. And she was staring at me, as if I had stolen her life. But I didn't know. I swear to you, I didn't know. I ran out of that church with my heart pounding like a war drum. That night, I sat in the dark. Alone. No tears. Just silence. The kind of silence that screams. Because while I was writing love notes, he was blowing out birthday candles with another family. While I was planning anniversary dinners, he was holding another woman in his arms. And yet, I loved him. God help me, I did. When the online posts began, it felt like drowning in a sea of shame. The mistress who dared to mourn. She lived off him while he died. Emails flooded in, some from old friends. Others from strangers. All of them cruel. No one asked for my side. No one cared what I didn't know. The world turned cold, fast. And my home, once a safe haven, became a haunted museum of lies. The jacket by the door still smelled like him. But now it smelled like betrayal. I should have thrown it away. I didn't. I started locking my doors more. Jumping at shadows. Paranoia took root. I was grieving someone I didn't even know. And a version of myself I would never get back. The day of the will reading felt like stepping into a trial. Only, I wasn't the witness. I was the accused. And as the lawyer read through assets and accounts I never knew existed, I sat in the back, wondering if any part of our life had been real at all. But this isn't where my story ends. This is where it begins. Because the woman who walked out of that church, the one who was silenced, shamed, and shattered, she's gone now. What rose from the ruins was someone new. Someone unafraid to uncover the truth. Someone ready to speak. Even if the whole world doesn't want to listen. I never expected the shock that came with the reading of the will. At first, it sounded routine, assets neatly divided. A house in New Jersey was left to Helena. A modest trust fund for each of his children. I sat still, nodding slightly. It all made sense. These were his kids. I prepared myself for my name to follow next, expecting something small. A token. Maybe a note. But then the lawyer said it. Margaret Turner is named the sole beneficiary of the remaining estate, he read aloud. Including but not limited to the marital home in Connecticut, all retirement accounts, investment portfolios, and personal savings. Effective immediately. Time stopped. No one moved. I forgot how to breathe. Then came the sound that broke the silence, a chair screeching against tile, sharp and jarring, followed by a strangled gasp. Helena's son shot to his feet, his face burning with disbelief and rage. His finger stabbed the air in my direction, as if accusing me of armed robbery. She knew, he shouted. She had to know. No one gets everything, unless they were in on it. The room erupted. The lawyer tried to speak, raising a hand for calm, but it was too late. Chaos had taken over. Do you think we are just going to let you walk away with everything? Helena's daughter spat the words at me like venom. He was our father. You were just his distraction. I couldn't speak. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. My cheeks burned with humiliation. My throat felt raw, scraped from the inside. Then Helena looked at me. No shouting. No tears. Just hollow. And that hurt the most. Because in her eyes, I saw a mirror of my own shock. We were both deceived. But only I was being painted as the villain. I stood up, my legs trembling beneath me. I didn't know, I whispered. I swear, I never knew. Silence. They didn't believe me. I walked out of that room, out of the tangled wreckage of William's double life, and into a world where I was no longer just a grieving widow. I was now the woman who stole everything. The stranger. The scandal. The villain in someone else's tragedy. I didn't open my front door for 2 days. The world outside had changed. Cold stares followed me at the grocery store. Whispers flared behind my back. Even the post office felt unsafe. Then came the local paper. Secret wife inherits fortune after businessman's death. No names. But everyone knew. The town connected the dots with terrifying ease. The timing. The wealth. The implication. It was enough. Inside the house, the silence was worst. William's slippers still sat by the back door. His toothbrush still in the bathroom. I should have thrown them away. But I couldn't. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at folders full of bank statements and deeds. All in my name. Millions. It felt unreal. Like I was living someone else's story. He always preached simplicity, clipping coupons, rolling his eyes at luxury. Yet behind that humble mask, he was quietly building an empire. And now that empire belonged to me. But I didn't feel rich. I felt poisoned. Every document, every dollar, it all felt like blood money. The price of loving a man I never fully knew. I hired a lawyer, not to fight, but to make sure it was real. That I wasn't caught in a legal trap. That I hadn't unknowingly inherited something toxic. The documents were solid. He'd made the changes a year before his death. Clear. Legal. Final. It was his decision. But why? Why would he do this? Why tear one family apart to protect another? I couldn't ask him. He'd taken the truth with him. Then the pressure began to mount. Helena's son sent me an email, a digital eruption of grief and fury. Fraud. Parasite. Manipulator. He accused me of turning William against his family. He said I drove him to the grave. Helena's daughter took to social media, painting me as a homewrecker hiding in plain sight. Her followers believed every word. Strangers sent me messages telling me to give it all back, calling me shameless, a thief. And the worst part? A small, buried part of me agreed. I hadn't done anything wrong. But I had gained everything. From someone else's lies. One night, I sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, listening to the wind twist through the trees. And for the first time, I said it aloud. I don't want this. Not the house. Not the money. Not the silence. I wanted the life I had before, the life where I still trusted my husband, where I still believed I knew him. But that life was gone. All that remained were ashes. Of a love that was real, and a man who lived 2 lives so carefully, he destroyed both in the end. Now I live in the ruins. Wealthy on paper. empty in truth. And no amount of money can fill the silence of betrayal. I never intended to reach out to Helena. Not at first. A part of me believed she would break the silence first, call me, scream at me, demand answers, or confront me face to face instead of hiding behind carefully worded legal letters or cryptic online posts. But she didn't. Not once. Another week passed. A week of sleepless nights and waking with a tightness in my chest that never eased. Eventually, I caved. Not out of courage, no, this wasn't bravery. It was something rawer. Desperation. I chose a neutral place. A quiet cafe tucked away off a lonely highway, halfway between our towns. A place where we were just two strangers to everyone else. I messaged her, carefully. Politely. I told her I wasn't seeking confrontation, only of conversation. For both our sakes. To my surprise, she responded within the hour. Tomorrow at 1000. Don't be late. I didn't sleep that night. My thoughts were a tangle of memories and dread. By the time I arrived, she was already there. No makeup. Dark circles etched beneath her eyes. Her hands were folded so tightly in her lap, I wondered if she was holding herself together by sheer will alone. She didn't greet me. No smile. No nod. Just a stare, sharp, tired, unflinching. The kind of look that makes you feel like your lungs forgot how to work. I barely opened my mouth when she cut through the air like a blade. Did you love him? The question struck like thunder. It wasn't what I expected. Not how long I'd known. Not why I hadn't walked away. Just that. I met her gaze. Yes, I whispered. I did. She nodded once, so faint it was almost invisible. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes glistened for a heartbeat, then cleared like a storm pulling back just before it floods. He told me you were just a girlfriend, she said. One of many. Before we got married. I even asked him once if you two ever reconnected. He laughed. Said I had nothing to worry about. Her voice trembled as she lifted the coffee cup to her lips, hands shaking just slightly. He lied to both of us. I stayed silent. For 25 years, I watched him schedule birthdays around business trips. I watched my kids stare out the window every June, hoping he'd come home. And knowing he wouldn't. Not until Christmas. Her voice didn't crack. But I could feel the fracture in every word. You know what hurts the most? She asked, her eyes fixed on mine. It's not that he left everything to you. Not even that you didn't know about us. It's realizing that I wasn't the only one being tolerated. Turns out, we were both being kept. The word lingered like a chill. I nodded slowly. I used to imagine our future, I said, almost to myself. Old and gray, sitting on a porch, watching the leaves fall. I thought. We had time. She gave a bitter laugh, one that held no joy, only disbelief. Time? That man measured time like chess moves. Always calculating. Always dividing. Holidays were just pieces on his board. She paused. Her voice softened, but her pain remained sharp. Now my children look at me with resentment. They think I didn't fight hard enough. That I let it happen. That I wasn't enough. I met her gaze. Helena, I swear. I didn't know. Not for a moment. If I had, would you have left? Her tone wasn't accusing. Just quietly curious. I hesitated. I don't know. My voice trembled. I want to believe I would have. But 27 years. That's a lifetime of memories to undo. She nodded. Same. We sat there, side by side, two women who had lived parallel lives, pieced together by the same man's deception. Bound by heartbreak we hadn't asked for. After a while, she reached into her purse and pulled out a worn envelope. He left this in our safe, she said, sliding it toward me. It's his original will. Before he changed it. In that version, she was the sole beneficiary. My name didn't appear at all. I think. He knew he was dying, she said softly. And I think, somewhere inside, he thought choosing one of us would make things right. Maybe this was his idea of love. I stared at the paper. My hands remained still. I never asked for any of it, I murmured. And even now, I don't know what to do with it. She looked at me then. And for the first time, her expression softened, not forgiveness, not warmth, but understanding. Neither do I. We parted without a handshake. No hug. No dramatic goodbye. But as I walked away, something inside me shifted. It wasn't peace. It wasn't healing. But maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning. He divided every second of his life like a chessboard, precise, predictable, and always one move ahead. But holidays were the hardest. And now my children despise me. Not because I failed, but because I didn't fight harder. In their eyes, I let this happen. I wasn't enough. I looked up, tears threatening to spill. "Helena," I whispered, "I swear. I didn't know. Not for 1 minute." She studied me, not accusing, just curious. "If you had known, would you have left him?" Silence. I hesitated. "I don't know. I want to say yes. But 27 years. That's a lifetime of memories to erase." She gave a slow nod. "Same." We sat in that little cafe like two shadows of the same storm, different shapes, same wounds. Then she pulled out a weathered envelope and slid it across the table. "He left this in the safe. His original will. Before everything changed. In that document, she had been the sole beneficiary. I think he knew he was dying," she said softly. "And I think he thought, maybe leaving everything to you would make up for something. Maybe it was his idea of love." I stared at the paper. My name wasn't even on it. "I never wanted the money," I murmured. "I still don't know what to do with it." Her expression softened. "Neither do I." We parted without a handshake, without closure. Just two women walking away from the same man's shadow. But as I left, I felt not peace, not forgiveness, but understanding. And maybe, just maybe, that was the beginning of healing. For 3 days, I left the red letters on the garage door untouched. Liar. It glared at me like a wound, raw in public. Neighbors slowed as they drove by. One even offered to help paint over it. I declined. Part of me thought I deserved it. The other part wanted the world to see, to witness what grief turned into rage looked like. To see how a man's carefully buried lies could unravel lives and leave someone else to carry the blame. But on the fourth morning, I woke up different. Tired. Empty. Done. I painted over the word. And for the first time in weeks, I looked in the mirror. And didn't look away. That same day, I made a choice. If they wanted me to be the villain, I'd become someone they couldn't define. I would not explain. I would not beg. I would reclaim my life. Quietly, I began giving. Anonymous donations. To food banks. To senior homes. I funded therapy programs for widows. Not to redeem myself, but because shedding that poisoned inheritance felt like cutting thorns from under my skin. But whispers travel faster than silence. Helena's daughter posted court screenshots. "She's trying to buy forgiveness," they wrote. "Guilt money. Keep your hands off our father's legacy." Then the court notice arrived. A lawsuit. Emotional manipulation. Coercion. Mental incapacity. They claimed I pressured him on his deathbed, isolated him, turned him against his family. None of it was true. But truth no longer mattered. Perception did. I handed the papers to my lawyer. "You'll win," he said confidently. "The will is airtight. Witnessed, notarized, backed by medical records." But I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I stopped opening the curtains. Then, one morning, I found an envelope taped to my door. No stamp. No name. Inside was a photo, me outside a post office. Scrawled across it in red marker, "How's the blood money, Maggie?" I dropped it and ran to the sink, the nausea hitting like a wave. Not because I feared for my safety, but because I feared becoming who they said I was. I called my lawyer. "I want to settle." "You don't have to," he said. "I know," I replied. "But I want to be free." That afternoon, I called Helena. She wasn't surprised. "I've seen what they're doing," she said quietly. I didn't know about the photo. "I don't want to fight anymore," I said. "I'll divide the estate. Not because I owe them anything, but because I want peace." She agreed to meet. This time, her face was different. Still tired, but softer. Resigned. She apologized, not for herself, but for her children. "They're angry. They don't know what to do with it," she said. "I know," I replied. Neither did I. We spoke for over an hour. About betrayal. About womanhood. About the silence of motherhood in homes where love was rationed. And then we signed the papers. Part of the inheritance would go to her grandchildren. Part would become a nonprofit in William's name. The rest was mine to handle. We left together. Not as friends. But not as enemies either. That night, my house finally felt quiet. Not hollow. Not haunted. Just calm. No husband. No children. No old friends. But something else. A door opening. I didn't tell anyone I was moving. Not the lawyer. Not the neighbors. Not even Helena. Too many people had formed opinions about me based on things they didn't understand. This time, I would walk into the unknown alone. And I would do it on my terms. Too many eyes followed me, some filled with pity, others laced with quiet contempt. Not a single one looked at me without judgment. So, I disappeared in silence. No farewell parties. No closure. Just a careful unraveling of the life I had once called mine. The house, our house, as the will so clinically described it, was the first to go. William's home. Our sockled marital sanctuary. Every creaking floorboard whispered secrets I could no longer bear to hear. Every drawer I opened revealed more than items, it exposed truths he had hidden away, neatly categorized like his deceptions, tidy, locked, labeled. I sold it. I donated what once filled our rooms, chairs that held whispered arguments, lamps that lit cold silences. I kept only the fragments of me photo albums, a few books, my mother's delicate teacups. His belongings, I left them untouched. Not out of spite, but because they belonged to a version of my life that no longer existed. I moved 2 towns over and bought a modest cottage, white picket fence, a maple tree that burned red in the fall. No whispers followed me here, no legacies, no lies. For the first time in months, I slept. No nightmares. Just birdsong at dawn in the hush of sprinklers in the distance. I drank tea on my porch without checking the news. I breathed. Just breathed. The first human interaction was simple, a jogger waving good morning. I flinched. She smiled. Just a smile. No recognition. No curiosity. That small gesture cracked open something inside me, hope. I found the local library and asked if they needed help. Ruth, the silver-haired director, didn't question me. She handed me a box of books and said, "Think you can alphabetize these?" I nearly wept. On Saturdays, I volunteered in the children's reading room. Their laughter, their pure chaotic joy, reminded me that not all of the world was touched by betrayal. I adopted a dog. A golden mutt with one floppy ear. I named her June, the month everything shattered, and the month I chose to begin again. She followed me everywhere, offering quiet companionship in a way no human ever could. Then came Helena. She'd heard I moved. She reached out. Brought cookies one Saturday, store-bought, but thoughtful. We talked for hours, not about William, but about books, flowers, news, life. Her visits became routine. One day, she brought her grandkids. At first, they were shy. By sunset, they were calling me Miss Maggie, giggling as June chased sticks across the yard. I never imagined being seen like that. Not a villain. Not a widow. Just someone safe. Someone present. But peace is a fragile thing. It was a Saturday morning. Crisp. Bright. Forgiving. I had just returned from the farmer's market, June trotting at my side, when I saw it on the doorstep, an envelope. No return address. No handwriting. Just like before. I froze. Last time, An envelope like this had sent me into panic, gripping my kitchen sink as shame twisted inside me like a knife. But I wasn't her anymore. I had rebuilt. Still, my hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, photocopies, legal filings, online comments, and at the top, scrawled in red marker, "You thought we were done." I didn't need a signature. I knew who sent it. Helena's son. I'd heard through a neighbor that he hadn't accepted the settlement, that he believed his mother had betrayed their father's legacy by making peace with me. He'd become obsessed, delusional, digging through old emails, contacting William's former colleagues, spinning conspiracy out of dust. That envelope was his threat. I called my lawyer. He told me there was nothing actionable, just noise. But the words, manipulation, fraud, coercion, they clawed at wounds I thought had healed. By Monday, the local news had caught a whiff of it. Just a footnote. A whisper. But loud enough to echo. I stayed inside for days. The anxiety returned like a storm cloud. Heavy. Suffocating. At night, June curled against me, while I sat in the dark, laptop closed, hands shaking. Then Helena called. "I heard what he's doing," she said. "I'm so sorry." I didn't reply. "He's angry, Maggie. But he's not well. He's not seeing things clearly." Her voice trembled with guilt, pain, and something else, fear. The quiet after the storm. I don't know what comes next. Whether this shadow will rise again or finally dissolve. But I know this: I've survived worse. In this new life, I'm not just the woman who inherited a fortune. I'm the woman with wind chimes on her porch. The one who alphabetizes books at the library. Who adopted a dog named June. Who is learning to breathe again, despite the ghosts. And no envelope, no threat, can take that away from me. "He's trying to destroy me," I whispered. "No," she said firmly. "He's trying to punish someone. Because he doesn't know what to do with his grief. And I will not let him use me, or William's ghost, to do that." 2 days later, Helena showed up at my door. No call, no warning. Just presence. Steady, quiet, sure. She had gone to the Attorney General's office herself, filed a formal statement in my defense. She'd gone on record. Said I had never coerced William. That his decisions were his own. Guided by guilt, not manipulation. And then came the hearing. Whether or not the case could be reopened. Helena sat beside me in that courthouse, her hand near mine. Our lawyers spoke. The judge reviewed the evidence. And in under 30 minutes, it was over. Case dismissed. No grounds. No new proof. No reopening. Outside, reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. Microphones thrust forward. I didn't speak. Helena did. "She is not the villain," she said clearly. "She is another victim of the same man who deceived us all. My son needs help, not more pain. And Margaret deserves peace." In the car, I cried. Not out of relief, but because someone believed me. Publicly. Fiercely. Later that week, Helena met me at the park. We sat beneath a large oak tree, watching her granddaughter swing toward the sky. She handed me a sandwich, peanut butter and honey, oddly comforting. "You know," she said, "I used to think you were the woman who stole my husband." I didn't respond. She smiled gently. "But now I know. We were both just trying to survive the same storm, just from different windows." We sat in silence, the kind that doesn't ask for more. And in that stillness, I realized something. This wasn't the end of the pain. But it was the end of the chase. The end of trying to prove who I was. To people who had already made up their minds. Let them talk. Let them speculate. I had something stronger than their whispers. I had truth. I had peace. And for the first time since William's funeral, I had someone standing beside me when I needed it most. The house I bought was small. Quiet in the kind of way that doesn't feel lonely. It felt earned. The hum of wine through the trees. June barking in the backyard. The creak of old floorboards, familiar now. After everything, I'd learned to cherish stillness. I started building a new life. Not grand, not headline-worthy. Just life. I joined a community gardening group, took cooking classes at the senior center, volunteered at the library twice a week, reading stories to children whose parents were too busy or too tired. No one asked about my past. No one recognized me as that woman. Here, I was just Margaret. Miss Maggie, to some. And I liked it that way. The letters still came now and then. Old acquaintances. Former neighbors. Even reporters trying to stir up ghosts. I tossed them all. They didn't belong in this new chapter. One weekend, Helena came for a visit. She brought a pie and a photo album. We looked through pictures of William. Not the ones I knew. But hers. Birthday parties. School plays. A man in a Halloween costume with his kids. I expected it to hurt. But mostly, I felt distance. Like looking at a stranger through glass. She asked if I wanted to keep any. I chose just one, a candid shot of William laughing, his daughter on his shoulders. The same daughter who once called me a thief. I framed it. Placed it in the back hallway. Not as a tribute, but as a reminder. Of truth. Of cost. Of the weight of deception. Helena's relationship with her children was still fragile. Her son had moved away. Her daughter kept her distance. But I saw the effort in Helena's eyes, a mother trying to rebuild a bridge from ashes. Then one fall afternoon, she brought them. I had set the table outside. Roasted vegetables, baked chicken, fresh bread. Simple, honest. Helena arrived with her daughter. And two small children. Her granddaughter, the one from the park, and a little boy, younger, clutching his mother's hand. I was nervous. So was she. But kids, they don't carry the burdens adults do. The little girl ran to June instantly. The boy followed. Helena's daughter stood stiffly at first. Then, after a moment, she looked at me and said, "They call you Miss Maggie." At the library. I nodded. "They like you," she added, her voice tight, but sincere. "They're good kids," I said. We didn't talk about William. Or the court. Or the past. We talked about school lunches. The weather. Dogs. Books. Recipes. Nothing heavy. But enough. After they left, I sat alone on the porch, wrapped in a blanket. Tea in hand. The house behind me, not empty. Just still. The shelves were filled with donated books. The garden was blooming. The rug June had claimed was worn but warm. And laughter, brief but real, still lingered in the air. It didn't erase the betrayal. It didn't rewrite the past. But it gave me something else. A beginning. And for the first time, I let myself think, maybe I'm not just surviving anymore. Maybe I'm starting to live. Then one day, the invitation came. A simple white card with gold trim. Helena's handwriting, neat and deliberate. Christmas Eve. Dinner. Bring June. No pressure, but we'd love to have you. I stared at it for hours. Unsure whether to cry or smile. A year ago, I was the woman who ruined her life. Now, I was being invited to her family's table. It didn't feel like a victory. It felt fragile. But sometimes, fragile things are worth holding onto. And yet, I went. The drive was hushed, the roads blanketed in soft snow. The world around me had folded into winter's quiet. In the back seat, June thumped her tail against the upholstery every few minutes, her presence of steady heartbeat, grounding me. When I pulled up to the house, Helena opened the door. She wore a deep red sweater, her silver hair pulled back with care. Then she did something unexpected. She hugged me. Not out of obligation. Not out of politeness. It was real, warm, steady. The kind of embrace that says, "I see you. And I no longer hate what I see." Inside, the living room glowed with soft lighting and the gentle scent of pine. Her grandchildren raced in circles, laughter echoing against the walls. Her daughter gave me a nod from across the room. Not quite a smile, but it didn't need to be. It wasn't a glare either, and that was more than enough. Dinner was simple, ordinary roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, two kinds of pie, But to me, it felt surreal. Every moment was fragile, delicate, like I was walking across glass. And yet, we passed plates, shared stories, as if we'd done it 100 times before. Halfway through the meal, Helena's grandson turned to me. "Are you really Miss Maggie from the library?" I smiled. "That's what they call me." He nodded, as if confirming something important. "Mom says you read the best stories." I glanced across the table. His mother's eyes met mine, and this time, she smiled. Later, with the kids stacking Legos beneath the Christmas tree and soft music playing, Helena sat beside me on the couch with a glass of wine. "You know," she said, "a year ago, I thought this night would never come. I didn't think I could look at you without feeling angry." I said nothing. I didn't have to. But now? She looked around the room, then back at me. "Now, when I see you, I don't see betrayal. I see strength. I see grace." My throat tightened. I looked at the tree, at the stockings on the mantel. This wasn't my family. This wasn't my home. And yet, here I was. "I never tried to replace you," I whispered. "I didn't even know I had anything to replace." She nodded. "I know that now." We didn't need to say more. The silence between us had finally become something soft. Just before I left, her granddaughter handed me a handmade card. Stick figures drawn in bright marker, one with a gray ponytail, the other with a dog that looked suspiciously like June. Above it, in shaky handwriting, "To Tia Maggie. Merry Christmas." At the door, holding that card, something inside me cracked open, not with pain, but with peace. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't the villain. I wasn't the outsider. I was someone's Tia. Someone who had found a new place in a life reshaped by loss. And as I drove home through the falling snow, I realized I had lost everything I thought mattered. But in its place, I had found something even more real. Spring arrived like a quiet apology. The frost melted, the maple tree in my yard sprouted new leaves, tiny green flags of survival. Birds returned, their songs lifting the mornings. Life didn't rush forward, it tiptoed. But still, it moved. I walked June every morning on the neighborhood trails. I waved to familiar faces. I chatted with the librarian about new arrivals. I helped kids pick out storybooks on rainy afternoons. Here, no one whispered about the past. No one asked about William. Here, I was simply Miss Maggie. The woman who read aloud with too many voices. Who always had treats in her coat pocket. Who smiled even when shadows lingered in her eyes. And that was enough. But healing is never perfect. Sometimes the past returned quietly. A photo tucked in a forgotten book. An old news article someone forwarded without thinking. Or the ache that came at night, reaching for a space in the bed that belonged to no one anymore. But that ache no longer hollowed me out. It pulsed. Gentle. Bearable. A reminder, not a wound. One afternoon, I sat on the porch with Helena. We didn't talk much when we met these days. We didn't need to. The silence had become sacred. We sipped tea. Watched June roll in the grass. Listened to the children laugh in the yard. Her daughter visited more often now. Her son, still distant, had sent a letter. Short. But genuine. Healing, I'd learned, isn't linear. But it was happening. "I think about him sometimes," Helena said, watching the horizon. "Not the lies. Just the moments. The man he let us see." I nodded. "Me too." We didn't pretend the good erased the bad. We didn't wrap his memory in forgiveness he didn't earn. But we acknowledged the pieces. The echoes. The grief. And the fact that we'd both chosen to rise from the ashes he left behind. "I'm glad we didn't let him take everything from us," I said softly. Helena turned to me. "He didn't. We still had ourselves. And now we have this strange, unexpected bond. Not born of love, but of survival. Of choice." When she left, I remained on the porch long after the sun dipped behind the hills. June rested her head on my foot. The breeze carried the scent of lilacs, my mother's favorite. And I thought about the woman I was a year ago. The one who stood at a funeral, and learned her life had been a lie. The one who walked out of the law office hated, humiliated, alone. That woman was gone. I didn't bury her in anger. I buried her in understanding. Because sometimes the deepest pain gives birth to the strongest truths. And the truth is, I hadn't just inherited his estate. I had inherited his consequences. But what I built from them, that was mine alone. Because she survived. And in her place, I had emerged, not just changed, but rebuilt. No longer someone who needed to scream to be heard. No longer someone chasing validation in someone else's shadow. I became the kind of woman who could take the shattered pieces of a hidden life and build something whole, brick by steady brick, quiet, resolute, unshakable. I hadn't just stumbled into peace. I had claimed it on my terms, not through revenge, but through resilience. By outliving the storm, by outlasting the whispers, by choosing to stand in truth when every lie begged me to collapse. I stood, stretched, and watched the last golden light vanish behind the trees. Tomorrow would come, just as it always had. And this time, I'd be ready. Thanks for listening. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your own story in the comments. Because your voice matters. And sometimes, just telling the truth is the bravest thing we can do.